Greetings and welcome back to Smartwatch Ticks. It's going to get technical today, gang. It's going to get technical. We're going to take a deeper look at two new watches that have come in with removable band capability that are full Android watches and compare those watches with a flagship standard Android watch with non-removable bands. Why? Because they've had to take these antennas out of the standard watch, which up until now hasn't been possible. And you see, they're not removable. And if you turn a bright light on, you can actually see the antenna inside the band. And it's because these antennas were buried in here to give the signal that you needed, to be able to receive the signal for cellular, GPS, Wi-Fi. What am I missing? All of them, I guess. Some of them, I think, are embedded in the watch, but all the rest of them have been put into the band. But not so with these guys. So the first thing we're going to do is really prove that I have nothing up my sleeves at all by taking the bands off. And we're going to test these watches without bands, with band, and compare the signal strength of all of the radios. To begin with that, I gotta tell you about this. This little thing is called a T6 40 millimeter, and you're going to need that because this is, I don't know why, but for both of these, this is how the bands are attached. It's not an easy sliding kind of thing. It takes this special tool that you're going to put in here and unscrew to get the thing out. But guess what? It does it on the other end too. And so, folks, you're going to need two of them. Thank goodness my trusty set here has some. And so what you got to do is you got to brace it. I mean, you can use other things, a little screwdriver, something to brace it, but you do need at least one of these. And you're going to get in here and you're going to keep screwing it until it comes out. And when it comes out, one end comes out, the other one's a long shaft, and then the band is removable. I'll be back when they're all removed. Sometimes I really sound like I know what the H I'm talking about, don't I? Well, I don't. This is too big for this one. For the KW99, it's going to have to be something smaller because that won't fit. So it's the same concept, but completely different tools you need. Now we got to talk about tools to take off the bands for the removable banded type watches. Oh, these are going to get long. I'm going to see what I can do. I'll be back. Found it. T4 by 40 millimeter is the size that's needed on the KW99. To unscrew it, I'm trying to hold it with my other side. Oh, good. It held somewhat. Is this a full shaft one or is this a separate screw? It's a separate screw. Okay. Wow. So this watch is put together completely different. Wow. Okay. And then it's got to come off of here somehow too. I guess it's a spring band held in with screws. Wow, that's something. All right. For that, we probably need a screwdriver. Not that side. Not that side. It's definitely in there. Wow. Okay, I'll be back. Well, I give up already. I cannot figure out how to get it out, and I want to get this video out. So for the sake of moving forward, I'm going to put it back, and we're going to continue. All right, we'll run with the KW99, although it's obvious there's no antennas in the band, but we'll run with this one with the bands on. We'll run with this one, which is the JM01 with the bands off. And our I4, we're going to run that one, of course, with the bands on because they're non-removable. Let's check each of these antennas out then. You're not going to believe this, gang, but I guess it's true. You know, the technical experts over at the Round androidwatches.proboards.com, my teammates that received this same KW99 have chimed in after my silly attempt to take the bands off and told me that you can't take the bands off because they have the antennas in them. Now, how could that be? Look at these. Okay, take this off. How in the world could there be antennas? Where in the world does the wire go? You saw me slide it, but check this out. If I bend it just slightly, you see how it's stiff right there? You see how it's thicker right there on both sides? Folks, we are looking at a watch that by all estimations should have replaceable bands, but it doesn't. But wait, this is Kingwear, right? KW99. You remember the prototype KW98 we did a review on? You remember that it looked similar with kind of a big hook here? And that it's all flexible, but that it has antennas in the bands, supposedly? Wait a minute, what's that? No, it's not what you think it is. Oh, goodness. It's granola from this morning's cereal. Got stuck on the back of my finger and then got plastered on. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, well, because it's been there and I didn't even notice it till I moved it, and I don't want to reshoot what you're about to see, and I just want you to know it's granola. Nothing more, nothing less, just granola. Granola. Similar with kind of a big hook here, and that it's all flexible, but that it has antennas in the bands, supposedly. Now, it doesn't look as much here, does it? I can bend that all the way. I still don't believe they're in there. Anyway, this is supposedly has the antennas in the band. And if it didn't, it doesn't matter because I can't take them off anyway. On this version, it's riveted, not snapped. But the KW98, the predecessor to the KW99, also looks like you can't take the bands out. And if I do too much to it, and they are in there, I'll probably ruin it. So, I don't know. At this point, we have that one. The JM01 is the only Android watch out there with removable bands, at least that I can take off. And a shout out to the Round Android Watches Pro Boards. You guys go over there, set up an account, free account, and get subscribed, because any questions on firmware or bands or battery life or anything, they're the place to go. All right, we are coming back live now and going to talk a bit about these three watches: totally removable band, pseudo-removable band, and definitely fully installed band or antennas, in the bands. And we want to check out the differences, the similarities in the tech specs. So let's start with the bandless JM01, because that's what we're all curious about. How does this stack up against these others? When I go in here, and I think I had it up here in the Play Store. Let's see. Yes. The AIDA 64. This is an app that gives us a picture of what's inside the watch. So I'm going to load this up, and we're going to take a look at the system on the JM01. Just a quick overview that we're looking at a RAM of 512 megabytes, internal storage of 1.3 gigabytes, and an external storage they talk about 1.3 gigabytes. You add all these things up and you're going to come up with about a 4 gigabyte watch. So this is 512 RAM, 4 gigabyte ROM or total memory. Okay, that's in this particular watch. The CPU it's running is a MediaTek 6572 dual core processor. We don't want to get too much more technical. But that's what you're going to need to know in terms of running tests like the Antutu report. When we go into this, oh, by the way, let me tell you about this watch face. Alrod and I have been playing with big digitals and different fun ways of displaying digital time on a watch. And these are his creations. So I told him, cool, dude. I'm going to show them off on the new watches, and you can check them out too as he watches this video. But these are a couple of them. I'll switch them in a minute, show you a couple more. Oh, goodness. What is he got it called? KW88 Tips and Techniques. It's a G Plus community. Look it up or check the show notes, and you can go over there and look at all the different kind of watch faces he's got and he's creating and designing. And they'll run on the KW88 class of watches, the #1 FINOW class of watches, good stuff. Anyway, this is one of his digitals, and we're going to go into the AIDA64 for this one to show you that we are running a full gigabyte on the i4 with an internal storage of 12.87 and the total memory of 9.71 or whatever. Internal. Anyway, it adds up to 16. I just don't do technical well. 1 gigabyte RAM, 16 gigabyte ROM or total memory somehow out of all of that. And the CPU on this one is a 6580M, and it's a quad core. So of course this is going to be screaming Nini when you run the Antutu speed test and all that extra memory to play with. The question is, how is it going to perform with its radios compared to this one? I wish it was the other way around. I wish this had all the bang specs, and then we could really compare across the board. If that's because you got all that RAM and processor that you're getting better cellular reception, for example. But we don't. We've got what we've got: a 4 gigabyte watch, a 16 gigabyte trailblazing flagship i4 watch, and this one. And this one you guys have never seen before, so we're going to come and play with it next. This is so big, I'm just going to move it over. It's not huge, the screen. It's just I can't lay it flat because of the bands. So this is not a lady's watch, and that's a Hulk watch. They actually are the same size screen and everything. Anyway, you get the perspective issue. KW99. Let's hop into this one. And we go down and look for the AIDA64. What do we got loaded up in the brand new, yet to be reviewed? We haven't reviewed this one yet, but you're looking at the tech specs of the KW99. It is a 512 megabyte RAM, and we're looking at about 55640 internal storage. When you add up all the other things that are missing, tax and tip and kitchen fee. Have you got that in your community? Kitchen fee. I couldn't believe it. I got a receipt for a meal, and it had, all of your stuff, and then tax, and then an extra, what is that? 2% kitchen fee. Ugh. I deducted it from the tip. I figure if I tip, I'm tipping everything, right? And they're supposed to divide it up in the back room. Well, this is kind of that way. You've got your tip, your whole thing is 8 gigabytes, but the operating system gets a little bit, and the firmware in the kitchen gets a little bit, and what you're actually left with is 5,600 megabits out of 8 gigabits. I got to slow down. We're looking at a 512 megabyte, 8 gigabyte RAM-ROM combination. 8 gigs here, 4 gigs here, 16 gigs here. That's the bottom line. That's what I wanted to show you. And the processor on this one is a 6580M also for a quad core. So I guess these two processors are the same, right? And that one's different over there. You're supposed to have a longer timeout. Well, we'll fix that in a moment. So that's what's inside the watches. The next thing is to really check this Antutu benchmark test. Now, I've already run it on all of these, and I've got results. I just have to bring it up and show you. Guess I have to run it on this one. Show you what the basic results are. This is that squirrely one where we got to go down to more, and then we go across here to there. Come on. Oh, yeah. Because this has got 16 gigs, and the quad-core processor, it'll run the graphics card and show you the really cool graphics. So those of you wondering, what does YouTube look like? What does the audio sound like? Well, at least on the i4, you're getting a good picture of it right now. Nice, huh? Okay, so the AM22 report here. Oh, that's the 3D benchmark. That's what's running right there. We actually have to find the main one and run it from here. So an 8 gigabyte watch with quad core is giving us 14,884, and the 4 gigabyte band removable one came in really low, as expected, 10,930. Nothing's screaming up in the 20,000 category yet, but this one isn't done. So we're going to wait for this to finish and see what the report is. There you go. And as expected, the 16 gigabyte quad core comes in great. The 8 gigabyte quad core comes in less. And the 4 gigabyte dual core comes in lowest. The brightness is because they're all set at different brightnesses. All right, that's your baseline information of what we're working with. Now let's dive into the radios. I'm going to set us up first for Wi-Fi. Check that one out. The app we're going to use to work with the Wi-Fi signal is this one by that author there. Why did I pick this one? Because on the watch, it's really easy to see. It shows a big number of percent at the bottom of a symbol, and you can just walk all around and keep an eye on that number and watch your signal strength go up and down. There's all sorts of different apps out there that you can play with to check your Wi-Fi signal integrity. This is a real simple, easy one. Now, I'm not going to actually show it to you on the watch because it also shows you the information about everything, and you don't need to see all that, and I can't really mask it well. I'll just tell you that when I bring it up, I have that on the screen with the percentage. You can download this and try it yourself on your watch or your phone. Here's the deal, though. These are the results that I get. Oh, by the way, I switched watch faces on you. Here's a modification of the one you saw earlier from Alrod, and here's another creative design that comes in multiple colors as well. There's 2 of them in here on every one of them because he's got it designed for both types of watches, the FINOW #1 type and the KW88 type, and it gets technical. Anyway, there's some more watch faces for you. I don't have watch faces on this one, though. I have not figured out how to install them yet. That's a red flag. You can take the bands off, but I don't know how to put custom watch faces on it. Here's how it worked. When I took this thing and I got it all set up on the Wi-Fi, of course, I had like 100% across the board because I'm only 10 feet away from my router. But I took them all and I went outside and I took a walk. And I kept going and going and going and monitoring how well they were doing. And as expected, this one was a little bit lower. I'd get like 88% when these were 95. I'd get like 76% when these were 86 or something. All along, this was a little bit lower as I was walking and walking and walking. And this one finally hit 20% and then dropped out when I was about, get ready, about 100 feet away. Which is fine for Wi-Fi. That's great. These were still kicking at about 40%. This one finally dropped off at about 150 feet. This one went more than 200 feet. The one that, I still don't know if there's antennas in here, but I can't take the bands off. Well, over 200 feet, and it was fine. I could not get it to drop out. So awesome Wi-Fi, good Wi-Fi, and adequate Wi-Fi. Actually good over 100 feet. Now, here's where it gets weird. While I was down there, and I was just holding them up and walking. I didn't have them on my arms or anything, right? Because this one doesn't have the bands on it. When I turned around and I walked back, everything shifted. This one went dead. I mean, it stopped. Like these had already stopped. It was less than 20%, so the signal dropped out. And they all stayed off until I got to about 100 feet away, which was when this one stopped, right? And this one came back on. And it was on by itself. Neither of these were showing Wi-Fi connection for, another 50 feet. So it was like from 100 feet to, 75, 60 feet-ish or so. Let me remember now. This one kicked in. That's right. This one kicked in. And it was like down to about 50 feet. That this one that never even went out when I was walking away, it finally kicked back in. But this one was in fine. They were all relatively the same strength. Once I got to really close, maybe 30 feet or so, these two just started really going up. This was still a little low. And when I came back in, it was the same story, 100%, 100%, 95%, 93%. So all in all, they're all great on Wi-Fi. You don't really need to worry about it. The Wi-Fi antenna, wherever it is, in the bands, in the watches, or on your arm, I don't know, it's working great for Wi-Fi. That's one of the main ways of getting on the internet and doing everything you want to do with a watch, right? The other way, of course, is cellular data. So we're going to take a look at the cellular network connectivity next. The app we're going to use to test the cellular strength is called Network Cell Info Mini. And you can download it from the Google Play Store, install it on your watch, your phone, and you don't even need a SIM card installed in order to test it out. It's pretty cool. So this is the app. I've got it running now, already up on these two watches, and I don't know why, but on the i4, when I try to launch it, it crashes. I have not been able to figure that out, but fortunately, my albino watch is replaceable with a black one. This is the same i4 as far as I know. It's working. It's not working. I don't have time to troubleshoot it for you, so I'm just switching over to the black i4, same watch, same configuration, no SIM card, just to show you how the cell signal differs between these. Okay, anything in the green is, of course, going to be really great. I don't know if you can see here, but I've got like 2 bars in the... Can you see that in the picture there? I'm getting a 2 to 3 bars it flickers between for my connectivity. These are telling me that this one's saying I'm on the Edge network. This one tells me I'm on the 3G, I believe. This one tells me I'm not sure what. Units, UMTS. You guys all know what this means? Good. So I may be looking at different networks with each of these. I don't know. But nonetheless, the lower the number, like a golf score, right, the higher the signal strength. And this is bopping around in the green zone. This is bopping between the edges of red and yellow. It kind of can depend on where you point it, but I am getting signal. And same thing here. This is up between the yellow and the green. So obviously, the one with the, we know, antennas in the bands, solid sturdy, is giving us a good solid cellular connection, but then it drops it. Maybe it's switching cells. No idea how this is really working. Maybe if I wave at it. There. Whoa, whoa. Come on, boy. This one's doing good. Again, we don't know about the bands and the antennas, but it's yellow to green. And then this is about the same right now. Look at that. Same. 91, 91. So, cellular... You make a judgment call. It looks obviously like you're going to have stronger signal connection with a watch that's got antennas in the bands, but you're still getting decent cellular connectivity from here. The real way to test that is to do a speed test when 101. When you get, you turn off the Wi-Fi and you just have cellular data and you have the SIM card in there and you do a speed test, right? So I got the SIM card in here. I'm going to do that now. And now we're going to come out of here, come back, and go into our setup where we have cellular data on, and I'm going to turn Wi-Fi off. Okay, Wi-Fi is off. Sorry, it's kind of blooming in there, isn't it? Let me turn the brightness down. That's cellular data, it's on. That's Wi-Fi, it's off. Now, whoa, too much. We have to swipe up, come over, once again, just to show you where we are with just cellular connection. Now, we're going to come out of here, exit, and I'm going to go into speed test. We are not going to be able to give you the Wi-Fi because I've turned it off, so it's going to find all of its connectivity through the cellular network. It's getting a ping, and now it's going to start pulling in the data. This is what do you call AT&T 3G connectivity, and I'm getting a download speed of, what was it, 4.73 megabits per second, and an upload speed of a little over 1. That's decent. That's going to let you do some nice stuff, not really streaming YouTube video that much, but definitely surfing the web and doing all the things you'd like to do. That's the SIM inside of here, AT&T SIM card, that's making this happen. All right, I'm going to go ahead and switch it over and put it in this one so we can test out the same kind of connectivity and data rates for cellular data in the JM01. Before we begin, I want to talk a little bit about waterproofing. This one is supposedly fully waterproof, and you notice there are no screws holding the back on. In fact, there is no back. It's almost it's either welded on, glued on, or it's a continuous seam, one piece, I guess. To get into it, you have to unscrew it from the front for these screws. But what we've got is a side slot for putting in the SIM card. Now, let's look in here. There's way down deep, you see that? Is a little teeny slot that the SIM needs to go in. I mean, way in there. You got to have a tool of some sort to press it in place. There's our SIM card, and sorry about the lighting. I wanted to show you this, the lip that is used to hold it in. You see, that's all that's going to hold back water when you push this rubber thing down, is that seal between water coming in the edge and coming back up and in around the SIM and then into the watch, because goodness, that goes straight in. Unless somehow that whole thing is separate and waterproof, and even if it is, your SIM would get soaking wet, right? So I'm a little reluctant to really call this full waterproof IP67 or 68. Swim in it, submerge it, all of that stuff. I will test it for you later. But first I want to make sure I've given you every little ounce of data that I can about this watch, so in case it does fry, well, we're both not going, wow, I wish you would have tested the cellular radio, which is what we're going to do right now. So here's the SIM card. And this is a pita sandwich, P-I-T-A, pain in the SIM card. You got to get it with the notch, and you got to guess whether it goes this way, or this way, or this way, or this way. Of those 4 possibilities, trying it over and over and finding it didn't work, I discovered, it's not in the manual, I don't believe. Well, I didn't even get a manual, it's a prototype. Hopefully it's going to be in the manual. That you put it upside down with respect to the screen, with the notch facing inward, and you very carefully try and position it over the slot, like that. Then you've got to carefully, and it's really recessed, so you can't do this with your finger. You got to try to get in there and press it and hook it. There, we got it. See that? It's now locked in place. Now we can turn it on and boot it up. Now on the JM01, we slide down. This is where we get our information. We've got 2G, and it oscillated to 3G back and forth here. There's our data connectivity, and we're going to turn off Wi-Fi. Okay, still saying 2G. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to go in here now and find our speed test. There we are. And now with Wi-Fi turned off, oh, by the way, the little white dot is for that special floating toucher app that you can put in here that kind of creates a little launcher of its own that floats over everything. And we can come out of that. Well, took us back out. Okay, so it's trying to find the best server. Anyway, that's what that white dot is you've been seeing here. If I press and hold it, I can make it go away. Network communications issues. That's not good. Let's try it again. Finding the best server and network communications issues. So I'm having a challenge with this, And apparently it is in there correctly because I'm seeing the 2G showing up. This is just reporting. I can't turn it on or off. Now there I got full, look at all the bands are there. So I've got cellular data, but it's not 3G. Ah, you guys can't see that, right? It's all washed out. There, okay, I'm so sorry. There, you see that? It says 2G. Can you see it now? There we go, okay. 2G, we've got data on, we've got Wi-Fi off, and this is also a PETA trying to get to any of the apps you want to use. Definitely not a logical way of accessing apps. More I'm using this watch, the more I'm a little sad about its overall performance. You can take the bands off of it, but wow, not sure. Anyway, I'm not getting the ability to even run a speed test on a SIM card installed that is connected to the network and getting us 2G connected data, but it should at least be able to give us a tiny little bit of signal on there. Finding the server and network connection problem. So it fails the test on being able to send data. What about this one? How to get out of it. I just want to get back to my apps and come all the way back up here to communications. I'm going to just go in and make a phone call to anywhere. There's a random number. Place it. It better not be a real one.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. 0462.
So you see, you can adjust the volume of your call. You heard how loud it was. And it is working to place a phone call. So there's your overall test of its ability to make and receive phone calls. So phone calling works. I'm pretty sure SMS texting will work. I'm not going to go into that. Data does not work, at least in the limited test I did here. And I cannot tell you it's because of the bands. I don't think so, because we're getting cellular radio connection. It's some other issue that we're not able to connect this watch in anything stronger than it appears 2G and get data connectivity that's going to give us anything reasonable. I'll do one more thing. I'm going to reboot the watch, and we'll see if it comes back up in 3G by chance. By the way, this is what the rebooting looks like, and that's how it shuts down with its microwear logo. I'll be back after it boots up because it takes a long time to boot up. Okay, we're back. Let's slide down, see what we've got. It hasn't lit up yet. Got connectivity, but we're not seeing any bars. Of course, that's not touchable. Well, there we go. Again, it's saying 2G. So it's not supporting 3G on the watch. And from what we saw before, we're not able to actually get any data transfer. One more try of the speed test. After rebooting, loading it from scratch. That's good. Trying to find the server. Really trying. Still trying. Whoa! It got it! It got it this time. Let's begin the test. Now, 2G was the old Edge, right? That's what we saw when we were looking at it. And, oh, I'm sorry. We'll let this finish, and you can see the power of my Wi-Fi connection. 52 megabits per second Wi-Fi and a good 10 megabits upload. How embarrassing. I forgot to turn Wi-Fi off. Okay, we're going to leave this. We're going to come down here, and we're going to turn off Wi-Fi. Now, we'll do that again. And I don't know on this one how you go to see the apps you just ran, so I'm having to go the long way to get in there. We're there, and now we're going to say redo the test. Going to do it again. Testing ping and network connection. So at least we verified the app is working perfectly. I've got great signal connectivity through Wi-Fi and nothing through cellular. What about the i4? All right, let's test it out. We got the SIM card moved in here. Got it all activated and ready. Let's try the phone calling first. Put in a number. Let's see what it does. Can you hear that? Okay, that's full volume. And it works. So we know we have a telephone. Now, what we want to do is check and see how the data, what the data speed is, right? So to do that, whoa, check that out. Whoa, oh, another Alrod creation. I love it. All right, got sidetracked. To check this out, I first have to turn Wi-Fi off. Make sure cellular is on, and now we can go in and run speed test. Woohoo! But before I do that, we got another one? Yeah. Okay. 0142. It rearranged. Nice. Now, speed test. Hello, come here. Oh, I'm all the way down. Okay, speed test. There we are. Speed test for data. Using 3G with an AT&T SIM installed in the watch with the antennas we presume in the bands, looking a lot like what we saw in the KW99. What's that pulling in? 2.55. That's a little lower, I think, right? I have to compare with the other results. Anything above 1 is probably reasonable in a watch for getting cellular data. It'd be nice if it was faster, and 0.56. Okay, so we're actually slower on the i4 than we were on the KW99. And you know what? On the JM01, I think the situation there is that it doesn't have the proper bands for working, with AT&T. And AT&T has shut off their 2G. So even though it showed 2G connectivity, it's not going to connect up and pass data because the 2G or Edge network has been shut down as of the end of 2016. So until that watch is expanded to have the frequencies that support other areas like the US, you're going to have to work with watches that do. And that's the KW99, and obviously this i4 works as well. Before I leave you for today, because we're going to do more of these tests tomorrow, I wanted to show you a couple more of Alrod's watch faces. Here's one similar to the one we saw earlier, only he's got it modified a little bit so you got seconds on it. And, where's my other one? Here it is. Okay, how about this one? This is really cool, nice and colorful, and in a variety of different colors, where you have the time and the date, all of that displayed on here, and in multiple different colors, yellow, blue. They're showing up twice because he's got one for the number 1 and FINOW type and one for the KW88 style of watches. So you got that, and then look at this one. Now, if this is on your arm, and you just twist it to see the time, it's going to look straight at you. You get the feel for that? Yeah. So you don't have to cock your head sideways. Interesting design. Okay, that's enough for now. A little bit more at the end, and we'll be back to test yet another radio. What do we got left? We've got GPS and Bluetooth. And Bluetooth works all the time. Even tethering watches with nothing in the bands works. So no need to do Bluetooth. It works fine. So the only other thing that was in the band is GPS. Good morning and welcome back. We're going to take a look at the GPS capabilities of each of these watches. by bringing up the MediaTek Mode MTK shortcut. This little app gives us access on each of these watches to a whole bunch of information. Notice that the 400 by 400 screens on these have really tiny writing, and this one is expanded into a large font. Just a difference to make note of. What we're going to do is slide over to location, go into location-based services. Here we have GPS. We're going to scroll here and see it says it's off. So let's get that ready on each of these. Location-based services, GPS, and it's ready. Now, I have these all in the full round. We could change them all, of course, to fit in a square, but then it would be even harder to see. And as long as we can touch that little upper GPS spot, and I'm going to turn it on. There, and I'm going to go to View. And that's going to bring up the satellites. I'm not doing it all simultaneously. And in fact, on this one, we have to turn it on, it looks like. Turn on the services. Yes, we want to turn it on. This I had to go through with all the other watches, of course. And you'll have to do that too. There. Now we have it there. Now we can turn it on again. And go to the map. Okay. And there's those satellites. And here, turn it on. Yes. Turn on GPS. Touch it again. And go to the view. All right. Now, what are we looking at? These are all the overhead satellites. The I4 with the bands in the watch has kicked in, which is rare. I usually don't get any kind of a connection indoors, but we're getting a really good strong signal from the I4 flagship watch. The green bars mean it's picking up the satellites, and at this point you have enough of them to triangulate your location without any problem at all. These guys, I'm going to have to walk outside and see if I can pick them out, pick up the satellites under just the direct overhead. And then I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and guess what? The brand new KW99 prototype has not acquired and does not seem to want to acquire any kind of signal. Red marks or green marks down there. The JM01 without any antennas at all, no problem. As soon as I stepped outside, it acquired the satellite connections perfectly, and it's holding them indoors. It hasn't faded away yet either. Now, sometimes what we've seen in the past, when we've done this little test, is if you put the watch on, the fact that it's on your arm will degrade the signal somewhat, and you lose the connectivity. Since this one has antennas and it's got a green signal, we'll test that one. No, it's holding good. Oh, they're starting to drop out. You see them? A few of the green ones are going. And that's pretty much the same across the board on all of these watches. The fact you've got the antenna in the band up next to your skin and the frequency of the satellites, and over time it just makes it hard to get a lock indoors. Always easy outside, but on your arm indoors, it's marginal at best. But this is holding really well. I give the i4 great marks on its GPS. I don't have any bands to have to deal with here, but I can try to hold it over my arm and see what we get, if anything changes. Again, because of the scaling of the fonts and whatnot, you're getting the bars overlaid on top of the circle with the satellites. You see them bouncing up and down, but they're not disappearing. So with the antenna folded inside, well, they're getting, I don't know. Well, it's holding really well. With the antenna inside, GPS seems to be doing good on this watch. So perhaps it could be like a pocket watch. Maybe you could carry it around and have your GPS positioning in your pocket. Or just toss it on your dashboard and drive around with it, whatever. Anyway, without bands, the JM01 passes the test once it was acquired for GPS. Same thing with the i4, which actually got it indoors, one of the first that's ever done that. And for some reason, we do not have GPS capability on the KW99 prototype. Want to point out again, it's a prototype, not even on the market yet, but nothing is registering for GPS. Although it is installed, you wouldn't be seeing the satellites if it wasn't actually installed, the GPS circuitry and antenna in here. But it's a possibility I might have messed up the antenna when I kept playing with it, if they are indeed in the bands. I don't know. Whatever the reason is, we're not getting it. And there you go for GPS. Once more, a shout out to the folks over at the Round Android Watches ProBoards.com. I kept this on the video because this is all about technical stuff, and so are they. I'm right at my edge of understanding any of this, and I try to make it simple as I can for the limited knowledge I've got. But these guys have got the really deep stuff. So if you have questions about any of these, they are tied in. In fact, the KW99 comes to me as a result of these guys working directly with Kingwear to get the advanced prototypes to do the testing before they release it on market to make sure everything is working well. And many of the other watch companies do that in cooperation with these guys too. And they're here to service us with firmware that's been verified for flashing to watches, answering questions, all sorts of stuff. Many times you guys ask me questions in the comments, and I immediately bounce you over to these guys for answers. It's over my head, and I don't have time to research it, but they do. So make sure you get on board and set up a free account over there and log in periodically and follow your particular watch of choice on the ProBoards. So let's summarize today's video. What have we learned? Well, first of all, we've learned that finally there is an Android watch that you can remove the bands. We've also learned that this watch has 512 megabytes of RAM and 4 gigabytes total memory, 512 and 8 gigabytes, 1 gigabyte and 16 gigabytes. We learned that the Antutu scores match 10,000, 14,000, 20 some odd thousand, which is expected. We learned a bunch more, too, about how to take the bands off. You need to get a special tool called a T6, and with that kind of a star point on it, you're able to take the screws out that lets you slide out these pins that hold the bands in the JM01. We also learned that the KW99 bands appear not to be removable, even though with a T4 you can take out the screws. You can't seem to take the bands off because the metal rod appears to be solid in there and there's no way to take them off. The folks at the Round Android Watches Pro Boards have told us that there's actually antennas in this band. See there? I don't have much flexibility. And somehow they're wired in here. It's a magic trick. Don't know how they do it because this thing slides back and forth. But supposedly there's still bands in the antennas in the bands of the KW99. And obviously, we saw with the flashlight, you can see that there's band antennas in here too. And you even see that in the sunlight a little bit right there. So with antennas and with antennas in the watch, we then compared the radios. We checked Wi-Fi. We found that all of them work fine on Wi-Fi, at least 100-foot distance from my router. This one was regularly 100 feet before it dropped out. This one went beyond 200 feet in one direction, but when I turned it around and came back, it was down around 50, 75 feet. So a little bit of lobe action going on with these antennas wherever they are on Wi-Fi, but still we're getting over 50 to 75 feet on all of them. This came in about in the middle with the built-in bands. Wi-Fi is fine. Then we went and we tested cellular. We looked at the cellular frequencies on all of them. Adequate to good, and good. And, or was it this one was good? This is the one that was best because, yes, the antennas are in the band. But you could still place a phone call easily with this without any trouble, as well as with these. When you checked data, you found that this one had some really good 3G data. This one was okay, not as good. And this one, unfortunately, no data at all. It would only connect to the 2G network. And that's probably a limitation because of the signal frequencies used, the bands used, not the bands, but the bands, are not compatible with AT&T in the USA. So, as far as cellular goes, yeah, no problem making phone calls with or without the bands. Then we checked GPS, and we found that, yeah, this one screamed with GPS. It could connect even indoors. This one locked up right away outside. This one did, and stayed good and solid without bands, mind you. And this one, for whatever reason, I could see the satellites, but I could not get a lock on GPS. And I remind you, this is a prototype, an advanced prototype at that, not even in the smell circuit yet, let alone in the distribution chain. So definitely feedback's going to be sent in. It has the radios, we know that, because otherwise you couldn't see the satellites on the map. So just a disconnect in the GPS not locking up in this particular unit for me. Bluetooth is Bluetooth, and it's been working in all the different tethering watches that we've had. We're not going to bother testing that because you have to do some fancy connection to tethering apps and try to put it in anti-loss mode, and the tethering apps don't support that totally, and just way too much. So just take it that the Bluetooth should work fine if you're going to tether this to a headset or a speaker to be able to play music that you put in the watches. And those are all the radios I know of that are in these things. So there you go, a technical dive into the new KW99, the bandless JM01, the albino i4, and you have been watching Smartwatch Ticks. Thanks for your participation, and yeah, drop your questions and information and comments in the show notes down below. And if you want to buy any of these, the ones that are for sale, I'll have the buying links with coupons in the show notes, so be sure, get yourself on a computer, a tablet, or something where you can read what's below the video on the channel, because that's where all the good stuff is. All right, we'll see you later.